let you start off, Coach, with some comments on your offensive line and how things are going, and then we'll get to questions. So,
You got it.
Barnett, go ahead.
Great to be with you guys today. It's a little bit over 4 weeks into the season, and been watching these young kids develop and get better, a little bit better each week. And it's been challenging. It's been awesome. You can't say enough about this group of kids and how they show up to work every day. And I think we're starting to see some improvement there, maybe baby steps at times, but for sure heading in the right direction. The main reason for that is their attitude every day, just the way they show up to work, and they're very willing to take on new challenges. Last time we talked, we were going through the training camp phase where they're seeing the same defense every day and adjusting to that. Now getting into game weeks, now their challenge has been seeing a different front, a different blitz each week, a different third down package, and seeing these young kids kind of melt in with that and embrace that process has been encouraging. And so just the challenges will keep coming. But that's the exciting part of this with the room. So of the guys playing right now, as you guys probably already know, one player is in his third year of game action with Jack Plum. We've got 3 in their second year of game action with DeYoung, Colby, and Richmond. And then we have 4 kids in their first year of game action with Logan Jones, Stevens, Dunker, and Ellsbury. And then we got Mike Mislinski, who was a little bit off and on early in the season. He's working himself back in that direction also in his first year. So I couldn't be more excited about this group and the direction it's headed. And with that being said, I'll take any questions you guys got.
All right, we'll go to John Steppe for our first question.
Hi, George. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So you were mentioning the youth that you have at this position group. How do you keep the confidence high when sometimes you're going to have some difficult moments and maybe some growing pains with a young group sometimes?
I don't think it's that difficult, to be honest with you. There's no courage like young courage. And these kids show up every day and they respond. We talk a lot about response and how to handle adversity and handle a tough day and going through things the first and second time. This group has been impressive that way. You don't need to coddle them or coax them into coming back the next day with a good attitude or the next play with a good attitude. But that mirrors our program and that mirrors our head coach down. So it makes sense.
Next question, David Eicholt.
Hey, George.
Hey,
Good
David.
to see you again. I appreciate you taking the time. Two-part question. How important was that first drive in that second half against Rutgers? You start off with 3 big runs just to see the group basically trending in the right direction. And then, of course, through 4 weeks, how would you assess just where things are kind of at right now?
Well, I think the first drive is exactly what you want as a line coach, and I'm sure Brian will echo that as a play caller. You want to be able to steady the boat if it's getting sideways a little bit. You want a group that's able to take control of the run game when it's called upon, and I think that was a good example of that. And we're just scratching the surface there. I really think so. So we got a lot of work to do still yet. As far as assessing the group right now, I think we have some building blocks being stacked on top of each other. To be quite honest with you, I don't think it's too high, too low, but I think we're heading the right direction. I think our guys are really understanding what it takes on a weekly basis because that's part of the learning process. And I think we're starting to figure out thresholds of each young kid. How many plays can they handle in a game? How many and still be really effective? It's learning on both sides. I'd love to tell you that we've had 5 vets in there starting the whole time and no one came in and but that's not where we're at right now, and that's okay. That's okay. As long as you understand the process and where we're at in the process and with our personnel, I think this can be a very positive situation moving forward.
Scott Docterman.
Hey, George, how you doing?
Good, man.
Good. I wanted to ask you about kind of some of the changes I've noticed, which is probably more counter than I can remember Iowa running instead of more traditionally just using that a couple of times a game at the most. Is that because of angles and kind of the youth youth that are working right now, and that those are blocks that are maybe a little more simple to accomplish as opposed to the zone, which a lot of times involves perfection in your fundamentals. It takes time to catch up.
Yeah, I think there's might be a little bit to that, but it's probably a little bit more. Number one, we've been working on the counterplay since midway through last season. During the game weeks, we would always leak it in, and we've been talking about it for a while. It really is a good counter to our inside zone. When you watch the film, and I know you do, watch that front side of that counterplay, and then watch the back side of our inside zone play, and there's a lot of common looks of that, and then watch the tailback too at the start of that play. So it's really a counter off that inside zone play. That's the biggest thing, just finding a good complement to it. Does it help our offensive linemen as far as, I don't think it's as easy as people think. I think people generally want to say, hey, just run a gap play. But like for the last 3 or 4 weeks we've seen more movement than I've seen in years, as far as not junk fronts, but that's a light term for it. But just changing gaps and movement. And a lot of times on that gap scheme, you're working against their energy. So sometimes those blocks can be even harder than once thought. Where the zone scheme, sometimes you can get the blocks with the defense's movement. So I think there's give and take when you start talking about the gap scheme. But it's certainly something that's certainly an attitude play. During bowl prep last year, we really started to ramp up the reps in that. To counter the inside zone play. And then in the bowl game, I think I don't know how many times we ran it exactly, but we knew that was just something we wanted in our back pocket. And camp, we repped some more of it. And so, yeah, I think we ran it 5 times maybe last weekend. So, yeah, it's a good play, and our backs run it well, and, it'll be a part of what we do.
Thank you.
Chad Leistko.
Hey, good morning, George. Good to see you. Michigan obviously was a tough game last year in December. What is kind of the message to your offensive line this week as you head into probably your biggest challenge of the season?
Just keep improving, keep working the way we've been working. Understand how we've made improvement from training camp to now, and don't try to change that right now. Don't try to change the process of getting better. The last thing you want to do right now is squeeze the bat too tight. You want to stay in your routine, stay in your rhythm. Again, we're dealing with kids with a little bit of lack of experience and some young age, so it's just a daily building process. The game really doesn't change that process. That being said, they know the challenge is very high. We obviously talk about leverage a little more this week. We talk about, because of some of the guys they have on defense, they do a tremendous job.
Kennington Smith, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Looking at the line, a lot of the competition right now is at the interior, at the guard positions. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what exactly you're looking for at that position. And I guess the second part of this question is what goes into your decision-making in terms of, when to substitute guys in and out of the game.
Yeah. What we're looking for is physicality. That's been a premium. I thought last year, at the end of the season, that's the one thing we wanted to do, is increase our physicality as a whole, as an offensive line, and inside especially, just because of how the interior works. That being said, we've got some competition going. Who plays when and where, I think it's a sliding scale. We got a couple older guys that have a little bit more knowledge base and a little bit more experience, and certainly more practice experience. And then we have a couple young guys that have a high level of physicality, but they have less practice experience and playing experience. So that each guy has a little bit of a sliding scale to them. So you're always trying to see, okay, they have a little bit of this, a lot of this. How does that equate to the next guy who has that? What are we looking for that week? And then it's how many plays can you play that young player and him still be effective? Okay. Some positions you never get into that because they naturally rotate. In the offensive line position, if you just go out cold and start running 50 to 70 plays as a first-year starter, sometimes it looks like, man, this kid's not playing very well. But if you can trim his reps a little bit and cut his workload, the concentration of a smaller workload might be better. Okay, and it also works the opposite. You may have a kid who has 10 reps last week and he does a really nice job. You're like, hey, we're going to give this kid 20 reps this week or 15 reps this week. And then he might falter a little bit. So he's telling you, his play's telling you what he's ready for at that time. It'll always increase as time goes, but that plays into the decision-making quite a bit. How many reps and how physical and how effective can you be? And then with a young kid, there's going to be a mistake. There's going to be a bad play. Well, you got to make a conscious decision as a coach. Do you want to pull the plug because of one bad play or a couple bad plays and a half? And that's sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. But when it's a younger kid and you haven't seen enough, he hasn't gotten all those reps, and you have an older kid that's had double the reps or triple the reps, that plays into it too. If I see this younger kid a little bit more, maybe he just keeps improving, where the older kids had 2, 3 years more to show. So, but it can go the other way too. Hey, right now in this situation, it's 2 minute. All right, it's 2 minute. We may have to go with the older guy that's seen all the exotic blitzes we may not be ready for, So pretty crazy answer to your question, but that's all the stuff that's going through our head during the game, and there's a little gut feel to it, when you know the kids, if you know the kids and a look in their eye and on the sideline, you get a pretty good gauge on what they're doing well, what they're not, and what they need at that time if you need to sub. I think going into a game and saying, hey, this is exactly how we're going to rotate or this is exactly how we're going to sub, I think you can get in a little bit trouble that way. I think you got to have a general idea, and then you have to kind of play the inning as it goes.
John Steppe, go ahead.
Through 4 games, what have been your impressions of Connor Colby on the outside?
I like him. I think first game or so he was playing a little bit like a guard, which is to be expected. He had plenty of practice at it, but a game's a little bit different. And I think he's starting to smooth out a little bit. I think he's starting to play a little bit better for sure. The biggest thing with him is maturity. The big thing I've seen with him in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks is he's practicing better. He's handling himself better on a daily basis. You just see the kid growing up. And again, we've talked about this many times, is you take for granted that he was so young last year and playing and surviving and doing a pretty good job, but he's still a young kid. And now what we're seeing with him is just his professionalism on a daily basis and his work before and after practice and his film study and things like that. You're really seeing this kid blossom a little bit, and it's fun.
Scott Docterman.
Sorry, I got muted again. One part is kind of dealing with the tug of war that you were talking about there. Is how did that apply with Jack Plum and maybe Connor Colby? Because Colby, probably isn't as refined as Jack Plum on the outside, hasn't been doing it as long, but yet his upside, his trajectory seems pretty high. And then the other part is you don't have to worry about Hutchinson or Ojabo unless you get a different job in the NFL in a few years or 15 years like when they're there. But how does their defensive line stack up number 58 and 90?
I think you almost answered your question on the first one. I think it's exactly one of those situations. Connor's, the more you see of Connor, the better he's going to get. Anytime you listen to Coach Ferentz talk, that's the nature of this program is work and daily work and improvement and getting better. And these young players, they do get better. And Jack's done a tremendous job too, and he's getting better. It's just, you got to weigh those two things and make a decision. As far as Michigan's D-line, I think they're extremely talented. Not only talented, I think they're coached very well. I think they do a really good job of playing multiple looks, multiple fronts, very physical with their hands. They play football the right way, and it's exciting to watch on film, and it's going to be a great challenge. If your leverage isn't good and your footwork and body position isn't good, they'll make you pay for it in a hurry. Where some games, some plays, you can get away with that. You're not going to get away with that as easy this week.
David Eicholt.
Yeah, Yeah, George, I mean, I think entering the season, the parallels between Tyler Linderbaum and Logan Jones probably went a little bit rampant just with the same number, defense, offensive line, impossible expectations. But I guess through 4 games, we've seen some highs, we've seen some lows from Logan. I mean, how would you, I guess, assess his play and his attitude just by the week-by-week improvement, taking over, like you said, his first real year of playing offensive line?
Yeah, I've been very impressed with him. I've been very impressed how he's handled just all the newness, all the first times, all the, hey, this happened. His mistakes that he's made here and there, enjoy them while they last. They're probably going to go away as time goes. What he brings to the table is just a steady work ethic, and he's really poised, calm, and he's physical. You saw last Saturday him start to get his timing a little bit and get a little rhythm to his play, and we've seen it in practice, but there's a growth process in games too, and he's not shaken by much, and he's just going to get better. You just got to keep putting him in there and let him learn. He's everything we thought he was going to be, probably a little bit more, to be quite honest with you, probably a little bit quicker. That's because that's a full plate. If you think about it, a year ago he had never snapped before.
Chad Lysacone?
Yeah, one of the nice things about these settings is we can kind of dig into a little minutia. I feel like more so than like asking a head coach a question about this, but it seemed like early in the season there was just some snap timing issues. I don't even know how you could see it on TV.
Yep.
Where
That was a TV delay.
Yeah, right. I guess what was the source of all? Like, how could you just articulate the source of that, and how have you gone about kind of resolving it? I didn't really see that show up much against Rutgers, if at all.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think what happens sometimes, the mind's going a little bit faster than the hand, and probably thinking a little bit right up to the snap, and just a slight hesitation or delay of thought process. Because as you guys know, at the center position, there can be some changing parts in a hurry, and you're in charge of guiding everybody and telling who's going where and how. So yeah, probably just a little bit of little hesitation there, and he's getting better. There's still moments that we teach through and coach through, but that's to be expected. And he just doesn't. I don't know, he's just impressive that way. He loves a challenge, and if he takes coaching so well, and I think that's going to continue to improve as the season goes.
Kennington?
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Mason Richmond. Seems like he's been, one of the constants going from last year to this year. He stayed in one position. He's played in every game. What have you seen from him in terms of his development at left tackle, and kind of what do you foresee for him, the rest of the season as he continues to develop and improve?
Yep, I certainly see improvement. I was joking with someone the other day, like sometimes we think he's been here 4 years, and he played a little bit over a half year. He had a setback last year, and then now he's played 4 games. But within our group, he's the leader, and he's our young guys probably think he's a senior. They probably don't even like just the way he carries himself and things like that. So that's been impressive because he's still a young kid. He's still growing through a lot of things and developing. But his attitude's good. The big thing I continue to want to see out of Mason is playing with some emotion and playing with a little bit more rhythm and feel, because he's a really, really sharp kid, and he is a perfectionist, and he wants to do everything exactly the way you tell him to do it, which I appreciate as a coach. But I think as he grows and matures, he's going to continue to play in a little bit quicker rhythm and probably a little less thinking, but he's still developing. But yeah, I couldn't be more happy about how he's playing.
Scott Doctorman?
I wanted to ask about going against the number ones, like especially when you're in camp. I know you don't do that right now, but the pluses and minuses of that. I mean, I'm sure the pluses are, hey, you're going against one of the better defenses in the country every day. Minuses are you're going against one of the better defenses in the country every day when you're trying to grow your unit. And what were the kind of the highs and lows of your group, and then kind of a counter to that is going up against somebody like Jack Campbell at a second level. How did that maybe help Logan and some of your guards trying to compete against him, or was it so difficult it was like going from Algebra 1 to calculus in some ways.
It's certainly challenging, but the best way to term it is instant feedback. There's no wondering how you did. You're gonna know that, hey, I did pretty good there, or you're gonna know, like, hey, who's that just ran me over? And that for a young kid, that instant feedback is really healthy. I don't think there's a drawback. I really don't. We always talk about you don't want to put a player in a situation where he can get burned up, and I don't think that you can control that. But to me, the more one-on-one work here, the better. That's got to be one of the hidden gems of Iowa football is the competition between the two lines, right? Because no matter where you coach, what level, what year, the best lineman you always, like if you go back and think about the best lineman you had, who did they go against in practice every day? I bet you it was someone pretty good. And so to me, it's pluses everywhere for that. And even the tough ones are such a positive. And then you got guys, how they're coached and how hard they play. And, our job is to get older and veteran and then be that for the defensive line too. And then when you start giving and taking, now you got something pretty special.
One addition to that is Tyler Ellsbury, during kind of camp and our viewing of camp, which is very minimal, seemed to have a primary role, and then he didn't play much in the first two games, and now he's kind of working into it. What's kind of his prognosis, his trajectory on this unit right now?
I think his trajectory is good. We're talking about a kid who's in his first year of action, and in camp, he got quite a few reps. I'm trying to think back. Got quite a few reps at left guard. Nick DeYoung was out at the time, and then he also got center reps. Start the season out. Mike Mislinski's out in and out of the lineup. So your backup center is who? It's Tyler Ellsbury, and there's a bit of a drop off after that. So that backup center becomes a very large insurance policy. And if you over-rep him somewhere else when your third center is not ready to go, that you could spell trouble if your first center has a setback. I don't know if that all made sense, but that plays into it. And then I think Tyler's biggest challenge right now and is the physicality piece of it, and then the rep threshold, just like the other guys. Because his knowledge base is really good because he's been here longer, and then how physical with his pads in his hands and the run and the pass respectively can he be, and then for how long? And I think that's what he's working through right now, and I think he's doing a tremendous job. His self-awareness has gotten so much better from a year ago to what he needs to work on and get better at, and I think he's going to continue to make strides. His attitude's tremendous, and he brings a ton to the room, and he's got his position flexibility is as valuable as you can imagine. I mean, he can play all three positions.
Is Jennings kind of the opposite then? I mean, his physicality seems there, but maybe his techniques or fundamentals are, maybe a step behind in some areas.
Correct. Yeah, and that's youth. You have Bo and Jennings, right? Well, Bo, they're the same age. Bo practiced last year. Jennings didn't practice one rep last year. So that's the discussion we had earlier of, the sliding scale of if Jennings keeps getting reps, guess what's probably going to happen? But you also got to check his rep threshold and how many reps can he do and still be effective. That's those. Jennings brings a pretty pure physicality to the game. Really sharp kid, but he's also catching up practice-wise, fundamentally, and then knowledge-base-wise too. But he's catching up fast.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. And we'll see you Saturday at Kenny.
All right, you got it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Yep.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much.
Yeah.